Welcome to Growth with Portia, a weekly conversation for your personal and professional growth. Here is your host, Portia Booker.
Hey listeners, welcome to Growth with Portia. I'm your host, Portia Booker, and yes, this is my real name. So, question for you. Did you bring your curious mind today? If so, I don't want to keep you waiting. Let's dive in. So, a little confession here, guys. Before I met my therapist this year, I carried around what I call a lot of emotional baggage. And of course, we know how life is. On certain days, the heaviness would force me to address my feelings instead of running for the hills from them. I can say that I am grateful, truly grateful for the patience of my therapist who has helped me to learn how to process those emotions and eliminate that emotional baggage that I'm carrying around 24/7. So, question for my listeners today. What mindset blocks are you preventing? What mindset blocks are preventing you from lifting that emotional baggage? Let that sink in. So today, I am joined by an overcomer who is on a mission to help, no pun intended, lift the weight of confusion around weight loss and nutrition, program design, and proper form. So welcome to Grew Up Portia, Miss Dia Raheem. How you doing today, Dia?
Okay, I'm doing great, and I'm thankful to be on your show.
Look, we've got a lot to talk about because, like I said, you got to lift that veil even from me around this arena that unfortunately a lot of people struggle with, right?
Mm.
And so, Dia, I love to start off my conversations with gratitude. What are you grateful for today?
Well, number one, I'm grateful to be on your show. Number two, I'm grateful that I just took that step to become an entrepreneur. I worked for SUNY Downstate in Brooklyn, New York for 18 years, and I just became a bit depressed going to work. It got to the point that I couldn't go, and I just decided to, follow my dreams. And I'm here today, growing my business. So I'm very thankful for that.
Well, you made that lift off, no pun intended, into an arena that is very unique to each individual. No
Yeah,
two entrepreneurs go down the same path. I mean, some of us have what I call the School of Adversity badge of honor, while other
right.
ones tend to somehow slide under that, but that's for a whole nother day. So,
Well,
dear,
I
I got
have the same badge.
you and me both. Hey, I feel it. So, Dia, I got to ask this. I'm always curious as to how people take on the calling in what I call one of the confusing areas of life when it comes to weight loss, fitness. And so, what did it take for you, Dia, to pursue that calling full time and not be weighed down by society's pressures?
Society's pressure, family is a part of society. That was the pressure that really took me aback, that I really had to prepare myself for, like you were asking me. So, the only person in my family that encouraged me to have a business before I even came to the idea that I wanted my own business was my father. And he passed away in 2009. And when I decided to do that, all I could hear is his voice. Get your own business, baby. Open your own business. We need to have our own businesses. Our community needs to have our own businesses. So once I started to do that, and even though there was adversity and there were trying times, I kept hearing that. And even though the times were trying, everything continued to work out. So, I told myself that the times I'm going through this adversity so that I could be ready when I get to where I needed to go. And that is what kept me solid in the adversity of just becoming an entrepreneur, because you do not get the support that you think you would get.
Oh, you can say that louder for the people in the back, Dia.
Yes. You do not get the support you would think. And I had to come to an understanding just by being around other entrepreneurs who all share the same story. There are going to be times where you are wondering why you even did this, but they encouraged me that that would be the time where the doors would just start to open. And it's amazing how that happens as an entrepreneur. And I started to also learn that what you put out, really you get that back. And as an entrepreneur, you really have to rely on that faith and do the work behind it. So that's all that kept me, solid during that kind of adversity.
Dia, I got to go back to what you mentioned about your father making his transition in 2009. And, my sincere condolences to you, because considering I'm also in that new recent space of losing a parent, they play a pivotal role in how we go about and navigate life. And so, Dia, for you, what was that grief process like for you? How did you learn to take that loss of your father and convert that into I'm going to succeed no matter what?
I have a spiritual sense as far as life is concerned. So I don't believe that he's just not around. I still hear his voice. I hear his voice during common activities. So I know he's watching me. So I just don't want to let him down. I had a special relationship with my father. He wasn't always in my life, um, but my mother left the door wide open for him, in in that she knew her ex-husband. They knew each other, so she knew that she had confidence in letting us know this is not him. He will be back. And he came back and did everything she said. So we developed a good relationship there. That he was my champion. And when he left, I felt alone, unprotected. Um, so yeah, I still struggle with him not being here, but it does get better. And I just remind myself that he's watching me. And I don't want to disappoint him. I don't want to have him watching me mourn. And I was in a very long depressed state after he passed, and I wasn't even aware of it. So yeah, I just make myself remember he's watching me, and I'm still baby girl.
Hey, that's all it takes. And, I've said this before that grief is love without a path, it's love without direction. But like you said, you still hear your father saying, "Hey, go get him, Dia, go get him. You got to knock him out. You can do it." And that's the same with me. I know my mom is heavily present within me all the time, around me. Like every blue moon, I'll come upstairs and my dog, Mr. Fletcher, he'll just start barking out of the blue. I'm like, "Hey, Mr. Fletcher, who's here?" I'm like, "Is grandma here?" And his ears will start flickering. And I'll just say, "Okay, Ma, if you're in the house, don't be a weirdo. Just, make yourself at home, obviously, but just don't be
Right,
strange."
right.
And even when I know she's close by, sometimes I'll be in the kitchen, making dinner or doing something, and I'll turn on Pandora on the TV.
Mm-hmm.
And 9 times out of 10, if I click on either Boney James Station or Huge Groove or Jakeem Joyner, any type of jazz, 9 times out of 10, if she's close by, her song's going to play. So all the time, she does send me a sign, whether it's through
Yeah,
people or animals or, directly through numbers. That's the one thing I will say that I'm still grateful for, to know that she's still heavily present, even though she's not physically in front of me. She is
right.
still around me 100% spiritually. So,
Yes.
Dia, I gotta ask this. I mean, when I read through your bio, I said, she's got a uniqueness to her when it comes to this arena of weight loss, healthy living, proper form. So please share with our listeners, Dia, exactly what about this erotic fitness? Please share this with me, because I was curious when I saw that. I'm like, huh, How can this really be used in my everyday life? Am I going to be walking down the street doing like cartwheels and handstands? How does this work, Dia? Please share with our listeners about your erotic fitness program.
So, my erotic fitness program, the mission of erotic fitness is to help women who are afraid of resistance training understand that we as women need resistance training in our lives. And we are not going to look like men because we're lifting some weights. The mission behind erotic fitness is to let women know there are all types of different physiques that can be created with resistance. So just because you start lifting weights, that end result doesn't equal to I'm going to look like a man. There are some of us who want more musculature than others, more definition. There are some of us who don't want as much definition or musculature as others. But what I want women to understand is that we have musculature all over our bodies. There are muscles that hold our organs inside of us, and we need resistance training to keep that up. And that's very important.
So, Dia, I got to ask this. So, kind of paint this picture for us, right? When it comes to obviously erotic fitness, the first thing I think of for women is pelvic floor, because I know that that tends to be an area where a lot of women, after they've given birth, that tends to, get weaker. And I think for also some women, even pre having children, that's an area that is not quote unquote solid enough. So they tend to have complications when they want to conceive and all of that. So maybe shed some light on that too, Dia.
So the pelvic floor, we don't realize, is a part of your core. And even though it's not here, that's still a part of your core. Your hips are also a part of your core, your lower back as well. So a lot of times we're suffering with back pain, we're suffering with certain pains in certain areas, and that is because our core is not strong. So what I'm trying to just help folks understand is that fitness is not just about being skinny. It's about being healthy and making your body strong, helping moms understand that just because you go into the gym and you see a weight that says 20 pounds doesn't mean it's heavy. You're probably picking up and down your 20, 25-pound child stroller with the child in it, and all of that kind of stuff. So I just want to make things relative. I want folks to understand that fitness is functional. So erotic fitness, the term came about because there are intimate movements that mimic exercises. And just to give a little bit of a backstory, I was substituting a fitness class at a gym that I used to work at. And the class that I was substituting was like a soca dance class, and I do boot camp. So a lot of the ladies were not very happy when I started to ask them specifically to hip raise. And hip raising is a movement that you mimic during an intimate time. So they were very upset. So I decided to mention that hip raising should mimic a certain movement to you, an intimate movement to you. And if you're unable to do that, perform that movement, then we need to ask ourselves, what have we been doing? And it's a direct question. It's an in-your-face question, but it worked because the next morning I saw someone with their trainer and they were hip raising with a weight. So this was one of the folks that was in my class the day before. So, I thought, I have something here. And I was teaching another class where one of the participants actually mentioned about how being in shape would help her, with her man. I forgot how she said it, but she said it like that. she was very happy. And I thought, here, this is a good way to let women understand that fitness is more than the cardio machines in the gym. You know what I mean? Just like men need to be strong, we need to be strong as well.
Dia, I got to ask this question. Being women, we go through so many what I call societal pressures to
Yes.
look a certain way in order to feel attractive enough to be intimate with a partner. And so, Dia, for our listeners, especially women who are tuning in, how can they work through some of those mental blocks of, oh, I'm not thin enough to do this type of movement, or maybe they've encountered some type of sexual trauma as a kid, so maybe that might be part of the resistance, right? So, Dia, how can other women, really shift their mindset around participating in erotic fitness, not just for obviously their relationship with their significant other, but also the relationship within themselves?
Well, the erotic fitness, it's not when we make our commercials and stuff like that, they're funny and just to get your attention. But the point is that fitness is functional. You just don't go to the gym and exercise. You are performing movements daily that are done in the gym. So if you want to incorporate, if anyone is out there thinking about self-care, trying to figure out how to take those steps, I would suggest first, love where you are. Love the person who got you to where you are today. That you might not want to be at that point today, but you are alive, you are conscious, you are aware that you are either happy or unhappy, and you can decide to make those changes. Just to be a little vulnerable, I was not always in shape. I didn't always look like this. I had a whole thyroid issue I was unaware of, and I just internalized all of that, you know, the excess calories and the weight that I had and how I did not feel good about myself. I grew up with my mother doing yoga. My grandmother actually made me watch bodybuilding shows. So, like you had mentioned earlier, it's amazing how our upbringing kind of sticks with us. Because while she was doing it, I was like, this old woman be getting on my nerves. She got me watching this, she got me watching that, she's telling me this, she's telling me that. And now everything she has told me is just a part of my life. And so, I had to start to think from that point, loving myself where I was, and then how to change or what I needed to do to change to love myself even more. I had to understand that just because I was not happy with how I felt and my physique did not mean that I was, less than a person, did not mean that I did not have value. It just meant that I wasn't happy with the way I look. And that is all it is. I had to stop myself from taking it further. And I just made those steps. And then I want to address your question about folks who feel that they can't do the exercise. That is a common issue that we face as personal trainers in trying to engage folks into a more healthy lifestyle. There's an actual term called low or self-efficacy. So that means there are folks out there who really believe that they cannot complete an exercise program. So, what I encourage everyone, my clients, people that I talk to, is that if you have a good trainer, your trainer understands that there are regressive exercises and then progressive exercises. So, let's take a popular exercise like the deadlift,
Or the
right?
burpees. I can't stand burpees.
Okay, so let's take the burpee. There is a regressed form of the burpee for folks who are not at a fitness level to do all the jumping, going into plank, pushing up, and then standing back up. So erotic fitness program is a part of the Fit Rebels. Yes, we rep to death, but we rep to death right. It has to be right. And in order to make sure that my clients understand proper form, if they are not able to complete exercise at a standard form, we regress it. Even if there isn't a public regressed exercise out there, you should be skilled enough to regress that exercise for your client.
And
So
thanks
there's
for
no
shedding light
exercise.
on that, Dia, because I think there's so many individuals who believe that there isn't an alternative, but there is. There's, a shoe that fits everybody's foot, no matter how long or how small or how wide. And so, Dia, for our listeners who are tuning in, if they want to connect with you and learn more about whether it's erotic fitness or any other type of fitness area that they want to work in, is there a website or social media handle you can share with us today?
You can share this one right here. Dia's Fit Rebels on Instagram.
Excellent, excellent. Dia, I gotta ask this. I mean, obviously, you're passionate about what you do, helping your clients to really overcome those hurdles and blocks that they have in order to reach their fitness goals and their overall wellness goals, right?
Right.
And so, how do you, Dia, find that balance between your passion for helping all of these women or men overcome these health blocks and also maintaining your own mental well-being?
That's a good question. I am up at 4:30 every morning. On Tuesday and Thursday. There's no other way to do it. Um, on Tuesdays and Thursdays, I'm in New Jersey in Jersey City or Secaucus, New Jersey in the morning. So today and Thursday, those are really tiring days for me. But what I try to do is make sure that I still carve out time for myself, whether that's to get a nap, whether that's to go to the gym. Um, I'm still working on doing that in the way that I used to before I became a personal trainer. But things do change. And what I try to do is welcome the changes because I have a totally different lifestyle than I did when I was a 9 to 5 person and just roll with the punches. I also have to remember that if I am not well, I'm not going to be able to teach wellness to my clients. I'm not going to be able to show up for my clients. So I have to, and they understand that as well. So if I need to take a break, everybody, oh my God, Dia, please, get some rest. I can see you on another day. So I try not to have that happen a lot, but I have about 14 clients. And like you, I'm the secretary, the trainer, the social media manager, the marketer, everything. So definitely just making sure that I can continue to show up for my clients and understand what that means, that I need to be well in order to help them to be well too. And that just means self-care.
So, Dia, I gotta ask this. For you, what does self-care look like? I hope it's not a whole new exercise routine,
Oh
but
no.
what does self-care look like for you? Is it, obviously you mentioned taking a nap, but do you take like a walk, or is there any type of like art activity that you do for self-care?
So I used to do a lot of art things, but everything now has become training. Um, so to answer your question, I am starting to try to get back to part of that life that I had. Um, but there was a time in building my business where I could not focus on that. So what I told myself was that I'll put this aside and that'll be there once my business is built. I haven't really gone clothes shopping in a long time. That's because everything I wear looks like this. um, and
For our
it's
listeners who
ridiculous.
can't see, Dia obviously has on your fitness attire from the, shirt,
Yes, the leggings,
leggings, the compression
the
leggings,
shoes.
probably the shoes. Yeah. So for our listeners who cannot see, Dia is wearing work uniform, no pun intended.
Right. And it's work uniform all the time. And I had to just remind myself that, again, I have to be in different headspaces and I cannot be in the fitness headspace all the time. Also, in order to grow my business, I have to be out. I have to do a little socializing. So I'm going to start embarking on that again. I started a little bit during the summer and we'll pick up again in the winter. But yeah.
Hey, I mean, whatever works. And I'm glad that you brought that up about in the very beginning of running a business, right? You're kind of running, right? You're on a marathon to make sure that you are seen and make sure that you are gaining clients and also making sure that your exercise plans are in order and your website, social media, your marketing. So it's like, yeah, you're really on a marathon when you first started. And it's funny because I had to remind myself, I became full-time entrepreneur this year in May.
Okay.
And I've learned to every single day. I have a self-care SOP in my phone, standard operating procedures for people who've never heard SOP. But I have that in my phone where every single day I take time for self-care because I never want to fall in that rut of eliminating that. And then again, that goes back to wellness, right? We've got to have those basic needs met. And I think as entrepreneurs, really reminding ourselves to carve out that time for self-care, even if it's just taking a walk around the block. I have a fur kid. He's got to go out for pee o'clock 9 times a day. So, I mean, just reminding ourselves of that. So thank you so much, Dia, for being so transparent and sharing that with us.
No.
Yeah, we're going to be wrapping up here soon. And I thank you so much for coming on and sharing with our listeners the journey to wellness and really what I call lifting the weight of confusion because, we tend to add more noise when we really don't need to around certain things. And so, Dia, for our listeners who are tuning in, what words of inspiration can you leave with our listeners today, especially our women who are in that boat of wanting to get healthier, but there's that societal prescription that says you have to look similar to The Rock or the Hulk Hogan or, all these other fitness gurus in order to be healthy. What words of
Right.
inspiration can you leave with our listeners today, Dia?
As far as fitness is concerned, I would say do your research. I would say also be mindful that the social media influencers, their clients are their sponsors. So when they look at them and they see those exercise recommendations, they have to be mindful that number one, they are trying to impress the sponsors so that they can get that following in that check. So don't look at them and get depressed. Don't look at anyone and get depressed. Again, start with yourself, love yourself first, and understand what it is that you want to change. And then you go out and you research your personal trainer. We all have different personalities. So you want to find someone that gels with you and understand what your goals are and let them tell you what their plan is to get you to your fitness goals.
Yes, Dia, you said one of my favorite things of do your research because doing your research can really save you a lot of time, a lot of disappointment, and also knowing exactly what you want. So you literally hit the target right in the bullseye.
Right. Exactly.
Well, everybody, that was our fitness trainer, Miss Dia Raheem, that you heard from. And that concludes another episode of Guru Portia on this Feature Friday. Thanks for listening and have a great and awesome weekend, everybody.